Following year, Olympic year, 2012 year, was a bit like, right, I left my coach because I got offered to go to America.
Okay.
So I got offered a scholarship to go to Alabama. And I failed my SAT exams quite badly, actually. It was quite a funny story.
Was it nervous? Was it nervous?
No, it's just the questions were ridiculous. So day jet device false starts, and we get the starter saying, "I'm very disappointed in you all for affecting this race and so on."
Seriously?
Yeah, she said it was our fault. She's like, "Very disappointed in you lot." I'm like, "For what?
Okay.
We didn't do anything. It wasn't my fault you false started."
Fair enough.
She said something like, I was really looking forward to this race, and I'm like, we're about to race now. You know?
Yeah.
This level, they're all good.
Okay.
I think the one athlete I would always say was Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Obviously, because when I first raced in properly in 2015, you know, not very often you get to say I'm racing the best athlete we have ever had.
Yeah.
You know, and for me to actually be a couple lanes away and be in the mix at 40 meters at the start was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then he'd obviously seen him carry on running a really good time.
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to say intimidating, because we athletes try not to be like that, but at the same time to say, you know, you're racing probably one of the greatest athletes we've ever had, and we might never get again.
Yeah.
You know, because those world records were special.
Yeah.
You know, it's you take it in.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is DJ Armani, and I'm here with my co-host Victor to bring to you the second episode of Athletics Productionz podcast. Today we are joined by one of the fastest British sprinters of the new age, Andy Robertson. Please tell us about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Andy Robertson. I'm a 100 metre and a 60 metre specialist, based myself in Manchester. And yeah, my personal best is 10.10 and 6:54.
Okay, what about the two? Do you do the two at all?
Yeah, I like doing 200s.
You got a PB?
Yeah, 20.76. It's quite an old one.
Quite an old PB?
Yeah, about 5 years old, I'd say.
Is it in the plans to reset that this year?
Yes, big time. I want
Definitely.
to push on to like low 20 points if I can.
Low 20s. Yeah. Is it possible? Can we do it?
Yeah, like to say, why not? You know, if you aim to be a 20.5 runner, you won't do it. But if you aim to be a 19 runner, you'll break 20.5. So you've got to break the limits. You've got to push yourself, or else you won't get these standards and times, really.
Okay, I like the thought process. Yeah. So let's start off with quite easy questions. What brought you to the sport?
Well, I used to do a lot when I was younger. I actually started off actually being a cross-country runner. Yeah. It's not ideal, I tell you.
Cross country.
Yeah.
You're a better man than me.
I know. It was
much better.
I used to bloody hate it at the time. You know, it used to be horrible. Well, I was always very small and skinny, and I always just kept running and running. So I started off at a local club called East Cheshire Harriers. It was a typical thing. I used to jog the race and have a greght sprint finish. Yeah. So when everyone thought, "Oh, your sprint finish is brilliant," I'm like, "Well, yeah, because I have to jog the rest of it just to make sure I finish." You know, stuff like that.
I'm doing it for, isn't it?
Yeah, it's literally that. If I maintain pace to this point, then sprint, then it makes me look good. You know. But it just got to the point where, as usual, you only get to a certain level. So I moved to Sale Harriers then, and then that was a big step because there were some good middle distance runners there, and I was struggling to make teams for that event, especially for the 800 meters as well. Okay, that was big ask because there were some good youngsters at the time. But doing a while as they're still going now, the Young Athletes Leagues, we was doing a race at Blackpool, and I was selected to do the 800 meters and the 200 meters for both the B string.
Such a big gap in
It's
events, but it's the young
do it.
Yeah, it's the Young Athletes League. Anything goes.
Yeah, it's all of it. You're just trying to fill spaces. You're just trying to get the full squad, aren't you, to get the points in for the team? Yeah, literally.
Come on, guys, just do it for the team. We need the points. Just do it for the team.
It literally was. So like, obviously, I'm getting myself prepared for the 800, and I got quite badly beaten by the lads, especially not even just from Sale, but from other clubs. Okay. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to enjoy doing this 200, and I absolutely whooped it, absolutely demolished it. And I was thinking, I'm actually all right at this. And then they needed me for the relay. Yeah. So I ran a really good last leg, and I just thought, I'm going to give sprints a try because I'm actually quite fast, and then obviously going better here than I was ever in the 800s. So
how old was that? Like, how young were you then?
I must have been about I think it was that first year when I was in secondary school, you know. Okay. When I probably swapped. Because I was doing the sprints for the schools as well. Yeah. Even though I wasn't really training for it. and I was doing a bit of both. And I thought, you know what? I'm doing sprints for schools, and I'm filling in for the 800s here, and I'm not really going anywhere for the middle distance.
Yeah.
So once I started filling in the spots then for the youngsters for the sprints for both sides, like for the school and club, that's when I thought, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing this because I quite enjoy it, and I was actually quite a decent little 13-year-old at the time as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So obviously back then it wasn't Power of 10. It would have been something like athletics data or something. Were you one of the guys that used to compare himself on the rankings and see like what was going on in the rest of Britain?
Yeah, kind of. I remember there was a few names. For a couple of years, there was some familiar names that were around. One of the athlete was from Liverpool, and obviously some from the London lot.
Yeah.
And we were all like 12-second runners at the time. And because even though I was like 12, 13, we didn't qualify for the English schools by then because obviously we were a bit young. But I remember when I started going to the English schools a couple of years later, there was a real big jump. Of being good in your local area to stepping up to English schools level. So I remember in 2005, I winning everything as a Greater Manchester's, breaking records. And I remember seeing the rankings then of, I think I was running around like mid 11 seconds, which was okay for
under 15.
For under 15, which
that's
is
pretty,
all right.
pretty good.
It's all right, you know. And then, and I remember checking the rankings then. It was actually Power of 10 even then. Or Athletic Data something then, something like that. So I was ranked, obviously it was all hand timing then. So I was ranked about 4th or 5th, thinking, I'm in the mix here, going into English schools. Go to my first English schools in Birmingham, had one of the favourites in my heat, and he battered me by over half a second, and I went out first round. And I PB'd as well, official PB of like 11.7 as well.
How was that for your confidence? Like, how was that immediately you finished? Did you just think, well, that was a terrible run? Or did you think, well, I had a PB, do you know what? Take it?
No, it was actually just shocked. Because I was so used to winning in my local area, and I was so confident, and I wouldn't say complacent, but I thought, this is it. I can do this, you know.
Yeah.
And I didn't even make the semis. I got absolutely, and I checked the other heats, and I still wouldn't even have qualified. These English schools guys just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it comes to schools athletes that don't really represent the clubs,
but
go to English schools. They just come out of nowhere running these like low 11 seconds, and I'm just like, who are these guys?
Where have you been hiding?
and it does actually make you want to stop the sport. It makes you think to yourself like, you know, you lose confidence, you know, because you're so used to being in that bubble of winning and competing, and then you just go to these English schools that you prepare for, and you just put your
This transitions very well to the question about the North and the South, because that would have been your first big view of competing with the South and the North together. Because in the North, it's only about Liverpool and probably like Preston
That's the
or
thing.
Leeds.
Yeah,
something that is to challenge you more. Well, Stockport now as well.
Well, around that area as well, obviously I was competing against Richard Kilty as well. So, because he and we've raced each other since we were literally under 13s.
Yeah.
So, when we were top of our age group, because Richard was always a year older, we were always quite top of our tier. So when I was like top age under 15, he was bottom age under 17s. But up north wasn't quite as tough at the time as it would be down the south. You know, even the Midlands were very good as well. So I was able to sometimes, as an under 17, enter as a senior or under 20 for Northerns and still medal, which is quite realistically, you shouldn't be able to do that really. Where if I did that down south, I wouldn't even make the final, because by then you still had the good Southern London athletes there. You know, and so whenever it came to our nationals, it literally was me versus London at the time. You know, cause especially under 17, under 15.
Yeah, under 17.
We weren't quite as deadly then.
Yeah.
Probably now, of course, is a lot better, but by then, because we didn't have the coaching and the setup as we do now, but then was like a real wake-up call. It's like, this is a real race, this, you know. So I remember their Southern Championships was like their nationals. Yeah. So I remember the likes of, you guys might remember the names, the likes of Jordan Huggins. Yeah. You had Antonio Francino at the time, who was a good youngster.
Still there,
you had a few others as well. Jermaine Alexander was one of them as well. But
he was very, very good.
He was the one that destroyed me in the heat.
Under 15.
Yeah, very good. You had a few others as well. Joshua Patrick was one of them as well. I might remember the name of as well.
He was from like Slough.
Yes.
And he kind of like disappeared after after under 17s.
Yes. I don't know. I haven't seen him for many years since then. I think it's made a few comebacks here and there, but I don't know what happened to him after.
Yeah.
And I remember that then was like their Southern Champs was like their nationals. Yeah. And they'd run fast. So we'd be going to the Northerns here at Sports City, running into -2 headwinds.
Yeah.
So we're running like 10.9s, but they'll be running at the Southern Champs somewhere like a Crystal Palace or wherever. We're running like 10.6s, 10.5s, and it's like this is a big gap to close now. So when it came to the Nationals, like at Bedford or wherever else, or even indoors, this is going to be.
But then, like you said, I mean, you guys were running into headwinds. We would generally get the benefits in South of getting tailwinds, or the track was just very fast. I mean, anytime there's a competition at Crystal Palace, you just expect to go there and run fast. You could be having your worst season to date, but a meet at Crystal Palace could change all of that.
Yeah.
So,
and it does. It takes one race in the season to change your season completely.
yeah.
So if you go like you said to Crystal Palace as a youngster, 2-3 weeks before our under-20 championships, you go run fast. Your confidence and your attitude going into that championship is so much better than coming here running an average time thinking, God, I need the standard, or I need to beat these guys. These guys have had the races quality at the time, and now it's better now because our Northern Athletics seems to have really improved. We're getting a lot of good youngsters as well. Some decent seniors now.
Yeah.
So having I remember doing the Northerns a few weeks ago at the indoors, I won it in 6:68, but I had Sam Miller from Preston who's running low 6.7s. So it was actually good. We've got a bit of a race going on here. We had James Williams in ours who was sadly got injured because I think he was in 6.7 shape as well.
Yeah.
And I actually saw the race. He literally wasn't far off me either. So I think he's been training.
He's been training really well because I trained with him. He's been training really well. He's just, I think he was devastated about it, as you will be, but kind of have to just.
There's not much. There's not much you can. I didn't know how bad the injury looked. He didn't seem to be coming off on a stretcher or anything. But when it comes to hamstrings, that's like Achilles.
You don't want to push it too far.
Yeah, exactly, totally.
Like footballers, they take 4 weeks off.
Exactly.
That's 4 weeks with good physio. For us, it's like 8 to 12 weeks with no physio.
DP every 10 minutes.
I know, foam rollers.
Yeah. I want to go back to the youth side of things for a minute, just to see the progression, because we're gonna get this is gonna be good for a lot of the young people that are gonna be listening in as well. So, like you said, it's quite demoralizing to be winning all the time, and then you get handed a first defeat, and it's not even a marginal defeat; it's quite big. Having to come back from that, how did you what brought you back? Because it is quite easy to think, oh, forget this, I ain't doing it no more. I'm not as good as I thought I was. What drew you back in? Because I mean, from 2005 to still be doing it at this age, 2019, like what gets you out of bed? What got you out of bed then? Yeah. And what gets you out of bed now?
It's knowing that as an athlete and as a person, you know what you're capable of, and a lot of it could be a bit of arrogance, or it could be determination. It could be a bit of both, but it's what you know yourself. And I've always believed in myself very highly, and I've had a lot of critics and a lot of people say I haven't. And also that point was proven then. I went out first round of English schools, and I got badly beat. Even the next day, I ended up dropping the baton in the relay by not concentrating.
It's a bad weekend.
It was a bad weekend. And it's like, and at the time I was, quite young, and I was, to be honest, I was chasing girls as well.
Fair enough.
Young girls, as you do, and you learn, and it's always obviously it's a learning and growing up. Yeah. But you don't see that at that age, because as anyone, you want everything now. You want the success now. It's just how you to drive yourself.
Yours has been on TV as well, because I think English schools were on TV at some point, and then it changed, or was it just Vinco Sport?
When it was on Sky Sports, it was the first year I won it.
I think.
Because literally, it was quite a cool story. When I went to the English schools first in 2005, obviously I went out first round. I kind of literally sat at the table, mum and dad eating, and I just reflecting, and I thought, it can go either way. I can think, do you know what? Don't want to do this no more. But I remember sat at the table and I just went, right, 2 years' time, it's back in Birmingham, I'm aiming to win. Next year's going to be tough because I'll be bottom major under 17s, so up against some good athletes. I'll try and make the final, whatever it is. And I literally said that, and then I said, right, but 2 years' time, when I'm at my best under 17s, I'm aiming to win the English schools.
Okay.
And I did.
Which event did you do?
Well, the following year in 2006, I did the 200.
Okay.
And I made the final, but I came 8th because the guys were a year older. So I had the likes of, one, it was actually Tony Corrigan at the time. It was a very,
Liverpool guy, right?
Liverpool, yeah. You might remember him actually. Yeah. He was quite a good youngster at the time.
Yeah.
You had James Alaka, Eugene Iamful, you remember Chris Tandy was the one as well?
Yes, I remember Chris Tandy because he was a good 4 guy as well.
Yeah, very strong lad,
Yeah.
actually. He was in, they were in my, and a few others as well.
Yeah.
They were in my 200 final. And I knew it was going to be a big ask, but I thought if I can make that final and just give it my all, again, I'm getting better. And then we went to the first ever UK school games.
Yes.
And I ended up having a very bad experience. I was actually quite badly bullied because I was with lads younger than me. I was hanging around with people who I thought were nice people.
Yeah.
So I was getting quite badly bullied. And I remember one time some lads would say, "Oh, do you not mind going up to check my room quickly first?" Because I can't remember we were sharing. I can't remember, but they said me to go up check my room for something. I went up and I looked out the window and they all ran off, left me in the building. Yeah. So and there was also a couple of girls who I thought were my friends from the track were just treating me like a loser basically, and it was a horrible experience. And that was another make or break. And that was probably the fuel that made me I am today, realistically, because he said, right, you have to focus now. You have to, if you want to make it, you have to be selfish, ignore the crap, ignore the negatives, and be a bit more ruthless with yourself, be more selfish. Don't keep giving up time for people that don't give it to you.
Yeah.
So I used that so well as motivation, trained like Rocky, hard, hard work, used that figure all the time, and then end up winning the national indoors, beating Antonio Fantino, running 6'8".
Yeah.
Ended up winning the English schools that year, went to the Youth Olympics for the 200 meters, came second behind Ramil Guliev, ended up winning the relay, and then winning the 200 at the national championships a few weeks after. So that year as a top age in the 17s,
really good year for you.
And that was the year that got me to where I am now. This is what I want to do now for the rest of my career.
So that was your first experience of doing like international competitions then.
Yes.
So dating back all the way to 2007.
Yeah.
That's been your first like, okay, I could actually do something here.
Yeah.
So was the Youth Olympics the turning point, or did it come a bit before that where you started to think,
it was coming,
I may have something
It was
here?
coming more, I'd say, was winning that English schools.
Okay.
Because that was really the first time I was on Sky Sports. There's a bit of pressure on me, a bit of publicity. And as a 16-year-old, it can go either way how you let it get to you.
Yeah.
So I took it as more of as, because at the time, Jordan Huggins was running very fast.
Yeah.
He went off to the World Youths, so he wasn't going to do the 100 metres at the English schools. And obviously, Antonio Fantino and I were running very similar times of the 1 and 2.
Yeah.
But he ended up doing the 200. So it kind of left the doors open for me to perform in the 100.
Yeah.
And I obviously had a few athletes like Joshua Patrick to beat and William Miffy, if you remember the name, stuff like that. So there's some good youngsters at the time then.
That was an Enfield guy,
Yeah,
right?
they were trained. There was 2 coaches at the time. I can't remember the names very well.
I know Eddie Stevens. I can never remember. I don't think anyone actually, unless she was in the group, I don't think anyone ever knew the name of the other guy that used to coach with them. But I know it was Eddie Stevens because he had a really fantastic group back then.
Yeah, very good set of youngsters that had potential to go very far. It was just how you managed them. And so I ended up going to winning that English schools, and that English schools for me was kind of a good subject for how youngsters can bounce back. Is whenever you go through bad times or whenever you're having bad races or anything like that, remember the people that support you, which is always probably your family, and always remember the friends who really back you, because you often find when you don't win races or you don't run well, it's very quiet. You don't get that support. You get a few people saying unlucky or there for you, but not many. And even to this day, you still get that even now as a senior. You often find on social media how quiet your phone is until you run fast.
Yeah.
So as a youngster, I realised in the end who my real friends were and who weren't. And after that, it kind of propelled me every year to, better performances and getting better and stronger. So obviously championships year in, year out. But always, I'd say that period as a youngster is always reminding me of to be selfish and be, I won't say selfish in a disrespectful way, but when it comes to your career, try and get the best for you at the same time.
Well, track and field, I mean, it's a team sport to some extent, but realistically, when you step on that track, it is just you alone.
Exactly.
So the selfish side of things kind of helps, because the minute you come out of those doors and you're on that track and you're looking down that straight, the person on your left and your right, they don't mean anything to you no more apart from you're in my way and I'm gonna step over you if I need to.
You can't show respect on the start line.
Yeah.
If you go into any race thinking you're going to lose, you'll lose.
Yeah.
You have one set of doubt. You see in the warm-up area, if you're watching too much what other athletes are doing, that's
warm-ups, the intensity of your warm-up.
You're getting distracted, you're getting, and as a youngster, I learnt that quite well, And I also learned that size doesn't matter because I wasn't a very big lad as a youngster. I'm maybe not really that big now.
Yeah.
And obviously you had some very big youngsters then. So the size and power they generate is quite intimidating. But when you start beating them, it's like, well, it doesn't matter. It's all about what you do for you. Okay. And so I used to just, and as a youngster, I think you guys will agree with me as well. When you're a youngster, you have no fear.
Yeah.
You just don't. You don't care. You just do it. You know, and you see it even now, these youngsters coming through because they have no fear. It's when you start getting older, you start letting those, I wouldn't say fears, but I'd say you start overthinking things because you want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
Or, you know,
Would that be because of like sponsors coming? You've got more social media presence. You've got people watching you now. Would that be like the reason why? Well, when you come into the seniors, you're kind of thinking, okay, I kind of have to do something here, or this is going to happen. Like you always have a precaution for what you're going to do.
To a certain extent, I'd say, yeah. I mean, you know, when I made my breakthrough as a senior, it was a wake-up call again. Because as a junior, you're in the bubble. So you know who you're racing, you know how to beat them, and then obviously you do internationals. Very similar. Yeah. It is when you hit seniors, it's right, this is a big step up now. So then that's when you think, what do I have to do to close the gap? Do you let yourself develop naturally by letting yourself grow and eating properly? Or do you start training differently? Do you start improving on things? And there's always things to improve on, you know, technically, conditioning, mindset, approaching, you know, running your race. So you often forget, like, as a youngster, what worked for you then. You try and use that what works for you even now. But at the same time, there's always things to change and so on. Yeah. And I think what happens is people start getting a bit over the top of things and start breaking it down too much. Instead of, you know, if you're in the street and you've got a Rottweiler chasing you down the street, you're not going to think high knees or jelly or anything like that.
You're just going to get going.
You're not, you're just going to run. You know, and once the adrenaline's in, you're just going to go. And sometimes it is the factor of just switching off and just letting it happen. You know, let the muscles do its job because that's what you train for. So just let it happen. You know.
So, we can't go through every single year, obviously, because that will take too much time. But what I'll do is I'm just going to go through your power of 10 and I'm just going to pick out very specific moments that we can go through.
Yeah, totally.
So, obviously, you've come up from under 17. You've now gone into under 20s. Now, this is where it always gets a bit tricky because you don't just have 1 year above you, you've got 2. Because of depending on how the birthday falls, you get some people that are a third year in the age group. What was that transition like? And
it wasn't too bad, to be honest. The only thing I found tough was the following year in 2008, I got injured. Okay. So I missed opportunities there because I went into the indoors a few months after, obviously, into the 2008 year, and I came second behind Jordan Huggins. Okay. So now he and I were bottom age under 20s, and we were beating guys the likes of Sobadu, James Alaka, and stuff like that. And our under 20s then wasn't quite like the other years. When the other years you had like Wade Bennett Jackson, Rion Pierre, Harry Akinis and stuff like them. Yeah. They were quite tough under 20s. We were good, but it was manageable. We knew we could all beat each other. So we knew we were in the chance then. So that year 2008 was a difficult one because obviously I was injured, so I couldn't quite tell if I could ever really be in the mix then. Obviously indoors but outdoors I pulled my hamstring quite early on and it messed up the rest of my season. So I'm hitting and missing a lot of major championships. So it was always hard to tell really if I could have been in the mix. Okay. But the following year, 2009, was really then where I got it right because I ended up winning the national indoors. And then I ended up coming fourth at the European Juniors, and I was behind Christophe Lemaitre running 10:04. Yeah, Guliev running 10:1 something, and I came fourth by Eugene Iamful, who came third in the exact same time as me. Which
ouch, that's got to be tough.
That, at the time, it hurt because obviously Eugene's very pleased with himself. He's dead happy, and I'm just there like, damn, I don't know. And I watched the picture, and I dipped by tucking my head into my chest. So I thought if I just dipped properly, I could have knocked off 100, and that would have been enough. You know, and eventually the race wasn't an issue because I ran the perfect race for me at the time because I ran a massive personal best. It was just my dip. And again, it was like 2007, it's motivation to go forward again. Yeah. So, because obviously I only had 2 years as a junior, the next stepping stone was right now I'm an official, well, I was actually under 23. Yeah. But obviously...
But that's kind of, it counts
as a season, basically. So that 2010 year was a real wake-up call. A year of growing up because I was 20 then, so obviously I'm my life's starting to change and making more friends, so I'm starting to obviously enjoy a little bit more social side of things, meet up with friends, few nights out here and there and catch, you know, so you new bit of experience for me in life at the same time. And that's when you start thinking like, I quite like this kind of lifestyle a little bit, you know, because all you do as you're all part of growing up. And I still had a good season running like wind assisted 10.3s in 2010 and running consistent 10.4s. But then it's like, right, okay, going in, but I was on Futures then. So I was on Futures program and I got kicked off.
What's the Futures program?
It's a bit like claim. It's a bit like claims. So when you're on Futures, you got something like £1,600 through the year.
Okay.
And whatever you spent it on, which is either fuel, hotels, and so on, they claim it back.
Okay.
So it's a bit like the Ron Pickering fund, but more reliable. Stuff like that. So you could spend it a lot and you get £1,600 through the year. So it actually quite helped actually with, you know, sometimes you're having to do relay practice in Brunel, which we had to do times.
Yeah.
You know, spending all that petrol money, claimed it all back like that. You know,
Yeah.
we got it back quite instantly as well.
Not too bad then.
Yeah, so I lost that, but I was able to get on Sports Aid, which was a bit of support from there. But the following year, 2011, was the European Under-23s, so that was another target to aim for. And again, because Eugene beat me 2 years earlier, I wanted that as motivation to think, right, I've got to beat him now. I've got to qualify for the Europeans, and I did. I beat Eugene in the final, came second at the national champs, running the 10.29, which was legal. Just got beat by James Alaka, and ended up going to the European 23s and coming third in the 100-meter final. Again, my race was mad because I'm so far ahead at 50 meters, and then James just comes past me and pips me on the line again. Wasn't a photo finish, but it's just the finishing was not working right because I'm doing something wrong.
Okay.
And then we've got silver in the relay. Then it was a real, because that was it. I was no longer in the 23. Then the following year, Olympic year, 2012 year, was a bit like, right, I left my coach because I got offered to go to America.
Okay.
So I got offered a scholarship to go to Alabama, and I failed my SAT exams quite badly. Actually, it was quite a funny story.
Was it nervous? Was it nervous?
No, it's just the questions were ridiculous.
Okay.
You know, it was like times P it by itself. You know, stuff like that. It was like letters dividing letters. Like I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah.
You know, this is really bad algebra stuff. This
Okay.
So so I'm thinking to myself, I've got no chance here. But I was getting looked after by John Regis because he was looking after me as part of Stellar, the agency thing. Yeah. So he was helping me write programs, and I was having a really good indoor season, and I nearly beat Dwayne Chambers in the final of the Nationals. So I'm thinking, I'm in for a good year here, you know. And then the summer didn't quite happen because doing too much on my own, and I've got no real plan. You know, Regis was good, but he was always based in London and travelling for his job, so I never really got the chance to get proper programs in. So made the final of this in the 100, but obviously didn't run fast enough for selection. And that was a wake-up call thinking, right, I'm just going to stay stale in Manchester now. I've got no coach, no setup. I need a group, I need to be around people. So I moved to Bath the following year, training with Dan Cousins at the time. So I trained with Danny Talbot and others then. And obviously I started having success then. So the following year made the World Championships for 2013 in the relay, running 10.14. The following year ended up going to the Commonwealth Games, getting silver in the relay. 2015 had an injury, but I ended up winning the European Team Championships for the 4x1, running championship record. And then 2016, I ended up going to the World Indoors, running 6.54, getting pipped by James DeSalo at the trials. And then going to the World Indoors in Portland, which was a real eye-opener. Because that's my first individual senior championships. And you got like Bromell, you got Bracey, you got Powell, you got Kim Collins, you got these world-class. Something I'm not quite used to, because I've had that, and I'd never had the opportunity to race these guys world-class often. So it was a real eye-opener. The atmosphere was completely different. It's so different to what I was doing nationally, because I never got the chance to, you know, race internationally. So then I ended up racing like Powell in the semi-final. He's strolling 6.43, and I'm there like 6.61 trying, and that's again like this is a big gap to close, you know. So it was a real. So those years I've learnt every year. There's always ups and downs, but you learn to keep going, keep grafting, and constantly look at the positives of everything.
Sounds good. I mean, already clearly something's been going right, because from 2013 you said to 2016, consistency of whether it was an individual or a relay slot, you've made the team. So you were doing things that you needed to get done at that time. So using that, how are you going to use those experiences to get you there for the long season we have for 2019?
Well, I think it's making sure I keep myself out of my comfort zone. So even though now I'm based in Manchester, you know, I want to be in an environment where I'm up against guys constantly faster than me. So I want to be the likes of training with the likes of Reece Prescott, CJ Ujar, who are based at Loughborough, Harry Kinizarite, Richie Kilty, Danny Talbot. Those boys are the sprinters in Loughborough, and they're the boys that I want to be around regularly, because even though I'm probably not the closest to all of them, but they're all faster than me, and it's being in an environment where I'm being pushed regularly, and not just relying on myself to train myself. I want to be in an environment every single day where you have to be pushed, you have to be ready, or else it will look bad on me if I'm getting smashed out the blocks by guys that I know I'm better than. So it's putting myself in a position in the comfort zone where I'm not in my comfort zone. You know, I have to be out of it. You have to be, you know, and even warm weather training, wherever I want to go to America to train with train with Lance Brahman's group, or anywhere else, or base myself in Europe. It's being in environments that you're not comfortable in because it's what you know best. So it's putting yourself in a position where you don't know what's best for you, because that's when it's like survival. You have to go for it. Yeah.
Fight or flight.
Yeah. You have to. You have to be hard mentally, because you see so many athletes that have their setups, what they're doing. Yeah. And yeah, they might be getting out of it, but you think when it comes to it, when they get to the major championships, they're not been used to that environment because they've had their plan. So you have, so you meet a lot of athletes that have a structured season, structured plan. So they say, right, these are the races you're going to do, and you're going to do those races. Some of them might not be like Diamond Leagues, for example, or very tough international races regularly. And when they all of a sudden do the standard, qualify, and then go to the major championships, they've not had enough racing these guys, so they don't quite know how to perform. Yeah. So I've always been a big believer of, like, if you're doing race week in, week out, or every few days, do it, because you're constantly traveling. You're going to different countries, so you're teaching yourself how to survive there. You're teaching yourself how to, look after yourself and be one step ahead of everything. So for example, like, you could have a flight delayed for a competition you're going to, so you have to think, right, what have I got to do? Right, I've got to make sure I keep hydrated, which is the one thing. I've got to keep grinding food. I've got to wait at the airport. There's nothing I can do. Yeah. The bus ain't going to be here for another 4 more hours. There could be a crash down the road, so you have to wait. Things don't always run smoothly. You get to your hotel like at 3 a.m, think, oh, sorry, your room's not ready yet. You have to wait for another hour. Things like that. So you're teaching yourself to focus every time. And I use a lot of example is the soldiers, like the Marines and stuff like that. How they are constantly on their feet, moving through some horrible, rough areas. Yeah. And I think those guys know how to survive because it makes them who they are. And I think athletes need to learn the same thing. And I think that's what makes them such... If you watch the Americans, they travel everywhere. They are traveling everywhere.
Yeah, because flights everywhere, isn't it? Because it's a big country. It's a big
country. Some of
country.
them aren't even flights. If you look at the collegiate system, a lot of the time they're taking coach. So they can be traveling all 7 hours on a coach, like, to go to the competition. And I just think to myself, that's crazy.
By the time you get there, you're thinking, my legs are numb, I'm tired, everywhere is tired.
We've just traveled 7 hours and you want me to go break a championship record. Like, how is that going to work? But exactly. They managed to do it. So you're right. All those experiences, they all come into play at some point in time in your career. Yeah. So... with that being said, like you said, with training with Kilty and putting yourself in those predicaments, so you're based in Manchester, but they train in Loughborough. So how often do you make that journey, and how does that impact, like, your everyday life?
So obviously, like I was saying about comfort zone, financially I stay in Manchester because it's financially easier for me to stay at home, and Loughborough's not too far from Manchester, so it's about an hour and 40 away, so I'll end up booking a hotel. So it's a balance of being out of my comfort zone, but at the same time, come home, clear my head, do my own thing. So I try and go to Loughborough every week. And in the winter, I was only going every Monday. Because the way their system was, I used to do running back-to-back Mondays and Tuesdays. But they didn't. They did running Monday, lifting Tuesday. And I already have a weights coach and a system for Manchester, so I don't really see the reason to do my own gym on my own. I get to do it here in Manchester. So that once a week for now in winter should be good, keeping myself up to date with running with guys a bit quicker than me. It was a bit different because Kilty and Danny had been injured this year, so they were always coming back later on, especially Danny, because he's had such a quite serious ankle injury, so he had to miss the entire 2018, which must be so frustrating. And he's getting back to his feet now, which is good to see. Kilty obviously was still a bit delayed because he had a Achilles injury that he had to have done and sorted.
Yeah.
So it was kind of me and Harry, and at the time, because of Benke, who was looking after us, he was kind of not really making us do a lot together, because he's kind of wanting it one-to-one to really work on technique. And I'm a bit different, thinking, well, you can actually improve your technique by doing it with other people, because when you're racing, you've got 7 other guys around you, so why not do it as a group?
Yeah.
You know, but he has his ways, and I kind of had to respect that.
Because he wants to pick out specific stuff, and he doesn't want him thinking about other things, isn't it?
Yeah, and I can understand that, you know, but because obviously I'm coming out and giving up a lot of my time, I thought I want to be pushed, because I'm doing too much on my own, and I don't know if it's working what I'm doing on my own. The only way you can tell if it's working is when you're with people. You have a good group around you. So eventually we did do block starts together, and we were doing some runs together. And then by then it got to Christmas, so I thought, right, well, hotels are going to be expensive through Christmas, and obviously I want to spend some time with family. And by then the indoor season was beginning, and everyone all went off to Tenerife for 2-3 weeks. So it kind of stopped there then, really.
So you didn't go?
I haven't been since, because I've been competing in the indoors, and while they were in Tenerife, I thought, you know what, to match what they're doing in the sun, I'm going to race early, try and see if I can get some early races in, and try and match doing what I've been doing in my own race wise to get that push while they're doing fast quality sessions in the sun together. And it seems to have, it was working quite well. And then obviously doing too much on my own is missing me that spark, because I've not been able to push onto the 6.5s like I had done in the past. Doing too much on my own still, he's only made me a 6.6 runner this year. And I think a lot of athletes, you know, do a lot on their own, and I think that's why I was kind of hoping we'd all do more together. So every session, because I don't believe that you have to have every athlete doing individual programs all the time. You know, if someone wants to get faster, get them as a group and get them faster, get them that competitive edge. Again, out of their comfort zone. Don't let them do blocks on their own. Get 4 guys doing them. Do like, right, there you go. You got to do 10 block starts to 40 meters. You 5, let's do it. You know, each rep, you've done the 6th one. You've got 4 more to do. You're getting tired, but the mentality is right. Survival mode now, like the soldiers, like I was saying. Let's go again, and you go again and again. You know, and I've noticed how Jonas does that really well with his group. They do that really well. I've watched him making his athletes do drills together. They do strides together. They do sprints together. They even lift together. So I even seen Reese and CJ doing power cleans next to each other, and you can almost tell it's a bit competitive, because it's constantly, he's bringing that American mentality, like, oh, he's doing better than you. Oh, see him there, he's got a bit of a better push than you there, you know. And one of the others like, I'm not having this. Put another 10 each side, you know. And that mentality of going again. And I think that's what it is that he's, you know, with these athletes, because they're so in their comfort zone doing the things their way, Jonas doesn't for them. He puts them out of the comfort zone. So like, if you're tired, you think, you know what, it's very tired. Right, your session today is this, this, and this. You're all doing it together, and you're like, God, I've got to go again. You know, I've got to beat him again today. And that's why they run so fast, because they're constantly competitive every session. And I find that I really like that, especially how, you know, it is like survival, because, you know, you can't have it easy every day, because that's you're not going to move on, are you? You know, you have to
don't
push
learn
it.
anything from it, do you?
No, exactly. You're just gonna stay up.
So
when you're when you're running in races, you're not running as fast as you want. It's like, oh, why am I not running as fast? I've been doing this, been doing that, been doing this. But who have you been doing it with? You know.
Time gates.
You know, and you can't, you know, you talk about that. We were saying, like, you know, about being individual sport. I get that, but you're not a team. You're a pack. But as a mental thing, right, I have to do what I can to beat him every time. You know, you do what you need to do as a group, but your main goal is, I'm going to beat him. I'm going to beat him, beat you, this and that. And I think as an athlete, not enough athletes do enough of that. And especially now, I think they're too smooth, trying to be feeling too good, too technical. And sometimes it's just run. Just man up and get on with it. You're on the start line.
That'd be a coaching thing as well, because obviously some coaches doesn't want, let's say I have an athlete that runs 10.5, you have a similar athlete, and they're constantly in the same competitions. Would that be, okay, I want to beat you as a coach, and I want my athletes to do better, which is why they don't leave, or well, they don't try and get together, because I know a lot of people in the North, they don't really have coaches. Like a lot of people, your standard anyway, they don't really have the coaches in enough to help them through the next level. Like, and a lot of people are going to London now, and is that going to become a thing? Is that going to be the norm now? Well, you're decent now. Unis, Loughborough, Brunel.
It's a good question, that. I hope not, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, I hope they don't become like that, because I don't think any athlete should feel like they don't belong in facilities due to what times they've run, you know.
Yeah.
We all start from somewhere, you know, and if that athlete believes the only way they're going to get better is either moving to Loughborough or to Brunel or to Lee Valley, no athlete should be stopped to do that. You know, if I said to myself, like, look, this outdoors hasn't gone to plan, it's Olympic year next year, I'm going to move to Loughborough and train full time with Jonas or Benke. Yeah. I shouldn't feel like I'm not good enough to go there.
Yeah.
You know, and I always say, like, you know, if you want to come do sessions with me, for example, ask and we'll work something out, because you learn new things every day. You can never stop learning. And I think with having that mentality of, you know, come to Loughborough, you know, jump in with some sessions, because I've seen how big now Jonas's group is. He has separate groups. There's a second group I see early in the morning. He has a good 15, 20 of them. You know, athletes.
Yeah, 6:30.
Yeah, and some of them I've not seen before, but they want to make it and they want to get out of their comfort zone. They want to go to the best coach they think's best for them, and I see the improvements they do there. You know, they're willing to get there 7 a.m. to make it happen. I respect them for that. Not many, you know, the Jamaicans do that. They train at 6 a.m. because, you know, they get so hot for them in the day. Yeah, they get there for 6 o'clock, but they're there for hours training, non-stop.
I think mentally, it's better training in the morning as well. Like, personally, I prefer training in the morning. Like, I'll wake up in the morning, like, get it over and done with.
Yeah.
In the evening, like, everything has happened through the day. You're thinking what you're going to do at night, and it's too much, I think.
Yeah.
I think in the morning, I prefer a lot of the morning sessions, but as a group, I like the evening sessions. Because everyone is free at that point. Everyone's, well, either finished work and comes in straight away. Like, that's another thing for you. Because, you know, if you're a full-time athlete, but at the same time not. So what do you do outside of athletics? You know, because are you currently sponsored?
No, I have no sponsors of anything, which is hard because I feel like I should be getting something, to be fair. For
the times you're running.
And I've been around for many years. I used to get a bit of kit when I was younger, and that's it. I've never had a signed contract of so-and-so like other athletes have. To be honest though, because I'm mixing my training around a lot, going to Loughborough. So when I first moved back, I used to go to Loughborough every week to every 2 weeks. I'll be there for a couple of days. So I train there for a few days in the day.
Yeah.
But when I'm back home in Sport City, because my dad's my full-time coach pretty much,
I
train in the evenings. So a lot of the times I used to go to my old secondary school and volunteer, help teach a bit there.
Yeah.
But it just got to the point where it was affecting too much of my training because I was on my feet doing a lot of cross-country, running around, standing at positions for them to make sure they don't go to the wrong turn.
Go straight.
You know, thinking, no, mate, you got to turn left, mate. You got to turn. They're carrying on up the hill. He's like, just let them do it, you know. And it was just getting to the point where that wasn't something I didn't want to go down the road. Teaching wasn't for me, and it was just too much taken up in the day because I was too tired for training in the evening. Yeah. So the way I see it is that when athletes usually often train in the morning, they train like a good few hours. For the rest of the day, they just relax and just rest. So I try and replicate that when I'm training in the evening. So if I've trained late in the evening, like at Sports City, I don't get home until sometimes like after 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I have my tea, stretch, then try and get to bed. So the rest of the day, I'm like, right, I've got the morning just to go to the shops, get some shopping done for my parents. But the rest of the day, I will just sit and relax.
Yeah.
Netflix and watch TV.
Okay.
It might sound a bit daft, but the way I'm seeing it is that I'm trying to get recovery in from the night before because I've got to go again in the evening. So sometimes I'd have a gym session, I'd get back till 9 o'clock, recover, and I think, right, I've got to do blocks and then 300s. So I've got to be fresh for that, or else I'll just be too tired and I won't go to plan. And because obviously my dad coaches me, I have to wait for him to come from work because he works in Chesterfield, and it takes him a good hour and a half to
down there.
Yeah.
Has your dad always coached you?
No, he's only started coaching me properly was this last few years.
Okay.
He's obviously, him and my mum have been with me everywhere. They've been so supportive. So they've literally every race I'll go to in the UK, they'll always be there. Obviously not everyone's in Europe, but you know, and I usually started off with a coach called, when I moved to sprint, so a lady called Linda. And then after about 2 years of her, moved to John Smith, based in Manchester. Okay. And he was my coach for about 7 years. Good junior coach, got me to a very good, you know, junior standard, especially for what I've accomplish as those.
Yeah.
And then I left after because it was just getting stale. I wasn't going to move on the next level.
Okay.
So obviously I had my dad for the year and John Regis helping out that year. Then I went to Bath to train with Dan Cousins and all them. And then I left and then I moved back to... I tried to get with Benke as my full-time coach.
Yeah.
But British Athletics didn't let it because the way they saw it was, in order for you to have a full-time coach with Benke, you have to move. And I at the time couldn't financially do it.
Okay.
So I said, okay, so I won't have you as my full-time coach, but I will come down when I can and do sessions.
So you made it work for you.
Yeah, and because the year I won the senior 60 metres, they were doing back-to-back sessions Mondays and Tuesdays. So they were doing sprints and upright runs on Mondays, and then Tuesdays they were doing fast, like 150s as a group. And I thought, this is perfect, back-to-back running. I'll do this every week. And that's a shame they haven't done that this year.
Okay.
Which is a real shame, because they did that then, and I was doing it every week, and then I'll come back and I'll have James Gladman, who was a good 200 metre runner and a hurdler from Warrington, training with me here.
Yeah.
So I always had someone to train with. So I was always having to push myself.
Yeah.
Where this year has been a bit different because James has moved back to Bath and everyone in Loughborough has been injured. So it's been a bit hit and miss this year because I felt physically winter training was the best preparation ever. Felt so good, so healthy, felt fast. But I could just tell coming out the blocks, there's not a spark there.
Yeah.
Because I just have no one to push me.
So, seeing as your dad is your coach, when the session's not going so well, who takes the brunt of that?
We kind of both do. We've had to be careful with having... We sometimes hear stories of how athletes with their dads or parents coaching athlete doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You know, they do fall out. We've actually got a quite good working relationship because he knows how to come across with it well.
Yeah.
And I take responsibility very well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes I do want to just say, no, that was actually all right. You know, as we all do.
Yeah.
But he's seeing the same things that other coaches would see. And I think, well, if he's saying the same thing as a coach would, you won't answer back to a coach like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why would you answer back to your own dad? And if he's saying like, look, Andrew, your arm's flicking, try and keep your arm straighter or your elbow bent so it's not flicking out. Okay, no problem. And the second rep, I'll do it and be like, I can feel it. Notice the difference. He was right, you know. And sometimes I'll just say, yeah, that rep was rubbish. And he's like, really? Why that? And I was like, I just did this wrong, did that wrong. So the communication is actually quite good. And he doesn't interfere too much because even though I'm 28 and can look after myself, so he knows what to say and then step back, let me do my thing. Because I'm so experienced, I know how to approach my race. He's just there if I need anything. Just keeps it simple, keeps the mechanics saying, like, Andy, your hips are dropping, keep your hips up, or just relax your jaw a bit, things like that. You know.
So is he like a watchful eye, or like he will tailor your sessions and you don't have any say in that, or you sit down together and go through the sessions? What type of coach is he to
He's
you?
probably more like you say, you sit down and we discuss what because I kind of know what I need to do anyway, because I've had a lot of hundreds and hundreds of programs from other coaches, and I try and match the program similar to when I go to Loughborough Benke, because I don't want to chop and change. You'll have a chance to adapt then. So we sit down about, these are what Benke's doing, so we'll do this and this, of course, when we go down with them, but when we come back, let's do this and that for that reason, because of this reason. And then he will agree, and then we'll fill it out. I have an S&C coach that will look after me S&C and fundamentals and so on like that. So I'm kind of created quite a funny network, you could say. So my main coach is my dad. I have Michael Carolan, who's my other coach, who looks after my S&C, the drills, some of the sessions, even when my dad can't make it. He can look after all the fundamentals when I'm based in Manchester. I have an osteo who, funnily enough, is based in Bath. But I obviously met him in Bath when I was there. So he always comes to races when I'm at them. Obviously I have my own people I see here. And obviously I have Benke that looks after me when I come to Loughborough. And he has input on what he's doing with his group. And says, maybe you, Andy, if you want to do this then this day, this is what you should do. So it's just little discussions like that. It's not too complex, because too much network and too much input can really, you know... It's just making
work you all.
Yeah, it can go in the wrong direction. It's all going in the right direction of where your outcome is, where you want to be. So having Benke with the right input for technical and giving me a group to run with is kind of what I need. So I can approach the first session of the week Monday morning, like blocks, Kilty, Harry, Danny, and hopefully Reese and CJ. Blocks and upright running. First day session of the week, let's go. And then hopefully the same again on Tuesday. Thursday when I come back. So, okay, this is what we did Monday and Tuesday. This is what we did in the gym on Wednesday back in Manchester. Thursday, let's do blocks again, and then let's do some 250s.
Okay.
You know, so we can have a one-on-one session, stuff like that. And it worked really well. It actually, I had a really good first year back in 2017. I had quite a good summer actually last year, especially had a really good England champs. And this indoors was going well, just hasn't quite moved on to the next level, which is probably signs of not getting enough of being in the groups like that.
Okay.
So coming on to that, well, this year's indoor now, what did you think of the trials?
It was a weird one. It was a weird trials. It was like, hard to explain. I approached it as all championships. Feeling good, confident, you know, one of the favourites to win, and obviously confident going to win. So I had an okay first round, as you do. You just get through the first round. The semi-final was stacked because I had OJ De Burn, Richard Kilty, and our Conference Lawson running well. So I thought this is going to be a pressured semi-final, so I have to approach this like a final. Ran okay, just got beat by OJ, but I was able to beat Kilty and Confidence. And then the final was a bit frustrating because I got put in lane 8, even though I beat Kilty, he ended up having lane 2. So I was thinking, why has he got a better lane than me when I beat him in the semi? So we actually did appeal saying, like, why have I got lane 8 when I was one of the fastest qualifiers?
Yeah.
And it's something like, because I was the second slowest of second place. I'm like, you're just making up words now. Yeah. You know? So, you know, we said, okay, right, we're in lane 8, so this is where you can concentrate, try and run your own race, and do your thing. And I wasn't starting great that day. Like, my starts were good in the warm-up, but I was just finding it a bit difficult to manage those blocks. There were different blocks. They curl, so you don't get your full foot properly on them. And the holes are different, so your foot measurements are not quite right.
Yeah.
But obviously it wasn't the excuse. It was just more something that I was trying to just figure out how to match my way of starting.
Yeah.
And in the final, obviously just missed out by a medal by like 100th or 200th, so it wasn't too a disaster.
Yeah.
But I thought, I should have won that. I'm good enough to win that. I've been in great shape. I've been showing signs that something's coming. I've had people say, never seen you look so good. Didn't happen. So I've kind of put it down as to an off day. You know, some days you wake up thinking, you know what, I'm not feeling quite as fast and fresh as I wanted to.
Yeah.
But human at the end of the day.
That's fair enough.
And, you know, well done to the first three. You know, Dom, Adam and the young lad, Azu.
Yeah.
You know, 3 faces that probably nobody expected to medal. People probably thought it was going to be me, OJ and Kilty fighting for the top 3, you know. And even I did, you know.
Even when the results came out, because I was in work, I'm sure it was one of the lads that texted me in the group chat and literally just said, oh, have you seen the times? And I was like, no.
Yeah, it was.
And then I just came up.
Yeah,
and I was like, whoa.
It was a really weird one. Like we were speaking about it after me, OJ, Conference and Kilty actually in the getting our kit after, and we were just like, what happened there? Like we were all feeling good, all confident. And it's just like, I don't know, just one of those days where, and it wasn't like me that was just having an off day and everyone was flying. It was like, yeah. And it's hard to explain what happened. It was, you know, just one of those things where it just didn't click. Yeah, it was like I just couldn't get out of second gear, basically. Yeah.
How does it feel being on the other side of the coin? Because as a junior, you've had that experience where you've gone and beaten some of the guys that were expected to win, and now you're on the other side of that fence where you've got the youngers now coming up and handing you that defeat. Like how does that feel now, being on that side and pushing forward? Do
you know what? It's not too bad because it's life. You shrug it off. You think, you know what? It wasn't a disaster. Just those guys nailed it and they beat you fair and square. Yeah. I've never been someone to make excuses. I've always been pretty honest and just say it didn't happen on the day. Don't know why, but that's when you go back to the drawing board and start figuring it out. And that's when you start thinking, I thought, it's because I'm doing too much on my own, for example. So it's a good realistic answer. That's when you think, right, so what do I have to do now to make a good summer happen? It's right. I think the training's good. Let's just need to do more with people. Faster. So I think what's going to be happening is I'm going to base myself again a lot more on Loughborough, but Kilty and I are going to be doing a lot together. So I'm actually going to be going to Middlesbrough to train with him a lot there. And I think he's going to try,
isn't it?
And he's going to probably try and come down to Manchester. It's difficult because he's got a family now, so it's difficult for him to give us. I totally respect, but I've got quite a bit of free time. Said to him, so look, I'll come to Middlesbrough. You know, I need training partners, and we're not that far away. You know, you need someone just as fast. Let's link up. And he's very keen about it, actually. You know, so things like that. And he said the same thing I did is when he started, because he's just as good starter as I am. He just couldn't get going. He's like, you react okay. The first 2 steps are fine. The transition, hold on, I'm just not moving.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've just hit a
kept
brick
the same
wall.
pace all
Yeah,
the way through,
it's like
like,
lactic
there's
hit
no
after 10
change,
meters,
yeah.
you know.
change
And I was saying the
gear
same, and I'm
whatsoever,
saying the
yeah.
same things. Like, I just don't know what was going on. So, but yeah, it was. And don't get me wrong, like we were saying earlier, like as a youngster, you have no fear.
Yeah.
So like Azu, Adam Thomas, and Dom Ashmore went in with no fear. They had nothing to prove.
Took
Yeah.
advantage of it,
Yeah,
didn't they?
so they just took on with it and they nailed it brilliantly. You know, and that Azu is what 17, he's ran 6'6".
Yeah.
Fantastic talent. You know, fantastic, and he looks like he's got a lot of growing to do. You know,
At 17, I mean,
Yeah,
he's not even hit
it's
his
fantastic.
peak yet. So
Yeah.
he's definitely going to be a name to watch in the summer, especially like for his age group and potentially some of the older age groups as well.
Yeah.
So
And as long as they don't pressure him too much, that's the one thing that this country needs to be careful of. Is, we've got a new youngster, let's give it all to him. So no, let him develop, let him take his time. It's all long term at the end of the day.
well, it's funny that you said. I wanted to touch on this point because we actually had this in the first podcast when we interviewed OJ. We had the same conversation of how Britain gets carried away with pushing youngsters, whether it's athletics, football, cricket, wherever it is. It's like, oh, we've got a new youngster, bam, we're just gonna jump on them. Do you think British athletics do it too much, where it's like, okay, yeah, this kid's doing all right, but now all of a sudden he's the next big thing and his name's everywhere and like they give him all this praise on BBC and stuff like that. Like
It's too much, yeah. And I think I agree with you. I think it's too much, yeah, from my opinion. And what it is because, you know, these youngsters, all of a sudden, then they're getting everything given to them, and they don't know really how to handle it. They're almost becoming like semi-famous.
yeah,
It's almost like, you know, at this level, they're going to be walking the red carpet on Hollywood, you know, thinking, you know, and it's like, you know, as a youngster, it's so important that they don't realize that you've got to give them time, because nobody really remembers what you do as a youngster. It's all using all the youngster stuff, like the championships, like I went through. It's all giving up to be a good senior. Because that's what it's about. You see Americans do the same. They hammer these youngsters in the collegiate system. So you're getting these names coming through, and you hear from them for a couple of years, and then they just vanish.
yeah,
They hammered them, you know. And there's a few names I could mention, but you know, I don't know. They might come back. I don't know.
yeah,
And I think with the British, it's a similar thing where, you know, they're given everything so much as a youngster, so they're around running fast for a couple of years, and then when they stop progressing, they don't know how to handle it because they're not used to setbacks, because they're used to having everything their way as a youngster. So when reality starts hitting them, they're getting losing races that they thought they're winning. Athletes who they used to beat are starting beating them more often now, and comfortably as well.
yeah,
They don't know how to handle it. They're not making finals. Oh, hold on, I made this 2 years ago, and so on like this, and the pressure starts getting to them, you know. And youngsters, because they are, some youngsters are early developers, so some are taller, more mature, and bigger,
stronger.
and faster. So they're obviously going to have an advantage over someone who's a late developer.
yeah,
And so when they hit 19, 20, they look 28, some of them, you know, which is true, because obviously you can
Let's
see
say
it.
no names on that one.
Yeah.
A few people that come to mind.
But it's true though, like how much more mature they look and everything. And the advantage is then is that because they stop growing at a young age, it's only fine marginal gains for them to improve. But some of them don't know how that, because they haven't got the team of staff around them to help them with that 1% better.
Yeah,
Where I've always been a little bit of a late developer, you know.
Okay.
I've always felt like I'm getting that a little bit better later on in my career. So I've kind of learned the hard way how to improve, but I've come out a better senior for it, where it's teaching the youngsters just to not pressure them, let them build, let them follow their own path.
The youngsters,
Don't take over too much of their lifestyle and career, because that's when it can really start messing with them. And we've seen it with them. You know, youngsters who thought would be the next best thing, they're not at the same level anymore, because they're just giving them everything too much too soon.
yeah,
You know, they're giving them hype, they're giving them money, they're giving them sponsors, they're on adverts, they're getting into these things and thinking, yeah, but he's 18, 19,
yeah.
you know, give him time. He might not be around 2-3 years time, and some of them are not around now because they hammer
It's
them.
the business side, isn't it, as well? Because the business side, they're getting money straight away. They get what they want from the athlete.
And the second it does come to money, that changes everything.
Yeah.
You know, some of them get these ridiculous contracts at a young age,
Yeah.
and then they're not performing to that ability, so they'll cut them off.
That's cut them off.
Because at the end of the day, sponsors want to know if you're found money.
And when you get cut off, you're kind of thinking, well,
yeah, it's like we're paying you to do a job at a high world class level. You're not doing that. Give it to someone else. He's performing, this other lad coming through, and it's that's how tough athletics is. You have to give these youngsters time to develop. I'd say later the better.
Okay,
Later the better.
this is another question, because you see a lot of them go to uni, some don't, which is fair. It's their decision at the end of the day. In the past 3 weeks, there's been the British trials, there's been the Birmingham Muller Games, there's the Lee Valley one, and then there's been box. It's been like basically February is always packed with events. How do you select which one to go to?
Well, a lot of it after the trials, I was on the waiting list for Birmingham, so I had quite a way down. And I thought, you know what? Knowing my luck, I will get called last minute for Birmingham, but I'll be in the outside lane of a tough heat. And it's not as much as trying to get the experience of racing seniors, it's trying to get the qualifying standard for the Europeans, because it was looking like as I was going into the Europeans, nobody was going to get it. So I thought, right, Dwayne's racing in Lee Valley, John Tugari, who's ran a 6.6, is racing at Lee Valley, and it's guaranteed 2 races, I'll do Lee Valley. Yeah. So that decision is basically based on what works for you. So I know obviously earlier on we were talking about comfort zone races and getting yourself in an environment where so on. But when it comes to other situations where you need standards or you need to be in a race where you think, you know what, the pressure's kind of off here for me to do my own thing just for this one off. Yeah. Birmingham wasn't the right choice for that, because I think Lee Valley was, because my first race I ran 6.70. I wouldn't have qualified for the final in Birmingham Grand Prix, but I had a second race to get it right, and obviously there was a false start in that race and they didn't call us back, so I ended up running 6.64 when I think I could have run the standard then, because I was on it then, and fully enough we appealed, got the third race, and obviously there wasn't much break between the second race and the third race, so I only ran a 6.66, but again it was the opportunity to get it right, and with Birmingham you only got one chance. Because you're going in the weekend after the trials, knackered, tired. Because you've had 3 races, intense. Your adrenaline's massive, and you always have a dip the week after championships.
You've not had time to recover or anything. You kind of like the week coming to it, going back into it because you're thinking, well, I've committed this weekend. What do I have to do to get ready for this weekend again?
Exactly, and and these internationals, they haven't had their nationals the weekend before, so they're coming in quite fresh. So they always run fast. So we had, Reece Prescott didn't do the nationals, but so he was fresh to go in to Birmingham, and obviously he ran well in the heat and final. You had Richard Kilty, who hadn't run much faster than he did for the start of the season, and obviously he missed out in selection. But at the same time, he was probably still tired from having 3 races from the nationals in his legs. Or else, if the Birmingham was 2 weeks after, he might have run faster, because he still had it in his legs. And it's just emotionally as well. And I think you are just trying to pick and choose the right races for you, and especially around the February one when you're trying to find races in January to get yourself ready, because our trials were quite early, like 9th and 10th of Feb. Not many races abroad going on in January. They're all in February. They're all quite crammed. So you think, I don't want to race too close to the championship. I want to be fresh for that. So it's trying to pick and choose the right choice. And February can be so congested. Really congested. And then after Birmingham Grand Prix, if you want to do another race for your major champs, like the Worlds or Europeans, there's none. So you're like, okay, you're giving us everything in 2 weeks and nothing after.
Is that a worldwide thing that you think needs to change, or a British athletics thing where they need to spread out the competitions a bit more?
I think when it comes to worldwide, is out of our control. Because that's what the races they set. But I think when it comes to like the world, if for example we're having a European indoors or world indoors, they're often in like the 1st of March. So I don't really see any reason to have like our Birmingham Grand Prix earlier or trials even later or whatever. I don't see any harm in last year was a bit interesting because we had the trials 2 weeks before the World Indoors. So we had the trials in Birmingham, then the following week was Glasgow Grand Prix, and then the following week was World Indoors. Now that's a bit of an interesting one to argue against, because having a Grand Prix the weekend before major championships, it can either go either way. Where if you're an international, you can use that to warm you up for the Worlds. Or if you think, you know what, I've just qualified for Worlds, I need more races. But for us, it was a bit different because we got selected the day after the nationals. And for us to say, right, I've had 3 races already, I've run fast, I don't want to do Glasgow because it's the weekend before the Worlds.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an awkward argument to suggest that, because it depending on when dates are to suit for your major championships. Now, I'd say do Birmingham or Glasgow Grand Prix the week after if you haven't qualified for for the major champs, or do them if you have to get the standard, for example.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I don't think they have much choice depending on when their major champs is, because if they had to have the nationals like end of Jan, they've only got a month then till end of Feb. So they have to find a congested races then.
Because I find it strange. It's like so if you compare it to outdoors, you've got a few open meetings up in, say, the end of March, early April. Then you start going into like Southern Athletics League and stuff like that. But beginning of May, you have your counties. Then
Loughborough
down the line, you get Loughborough International.
Just kind of out the door open.
Then you get your regional, so South or North or Midlands. But in indoors, it's like, cool. January started and South of England and North England champs are the first week in. And it's like, but that's the reverse of what I'm trying to do, because that's a good competition to wake myself up for trials. So do you think they should swap? Because I know, like with Essex is generally the same weekend as senior trials, and I'm looking at that and thinking to myself, put Essex at the beginning of January in that same slot that you've got South of England, then move South of England towards the end, and then you've got a little gap there where you can either have a break or then slot in Lee Valley Open or Birmingham City Games, stuff like that. And it's just like, okay, that for me, that works out a lot better, because that's a transition in the stages of your competition. Because you could say, right, trials is my county trials is like a training session, but just a semi-competitive one. Then I have Northerns where most people are going to turn up, so I'll do this one. And then I've got trials. So by then, if you've not done any international races, at least you can say to yourself, all right, I've had this, I feel somewhat ready. Is that something you feel like British athletes could potentially do and should do? So it mirrors the outdoors?
Yeah, I think they could, but I think the way they see it is because obviously indoors is not quite as important as outdoors. I don't think they're too fussed how it goes. Yeah. Because you often find with athletes they don't do full indoors. So when they do set these comps up to evolve around the nationals, because they have to give it time for, obviously when the selection they have it, and then the Birmingham Grand Prix there's a second chance, then they only have 2 weeks then till the majors. It's hard to say really. I think what you said for the summer was perfect, but I think for indoors is always a bit different because of when they have to set the championships,
because then there's warm weather training as well, which comes into it.
Exactly. When you have the you don't, I think it's to do with the time frame depending on when everyone goes away in January to our major championship, which is in usually start of March, where for the summer you literally do have April till July, so you have such a big gap. And I think when it comes to indoors, they're trying to cram it in as much as possible. The comps they've got set has to be here, has to be there, has to be here. For outdoors, I think they can spread it out more. I think it's difficult to say really, because you get told quite early on anyway what dates you're going to be racing, what the standard is and everything. So sometimes for indoors, you don't have much choice. And I think for indoors, you can just get away with having a few races quite close to the majors because it's only 60 meters. But for outdoors, 100s and 200s and not even 400s, it's a completely different thing.
Well, last year was pretty close, wasn't it? Like last year you had, I think, 3 weeks on the bounce of major events. I can't remember what it is. I think it was the Northerns at start of June, and then you moved on and it was the trials or the Birmingham. The Loughborough International was a week before that. Then you had the Northerns, and then you had the trials, and then after that you had something else immediately after.
Maybe England
you had
champs?
1 week, 1 week rest in between that little that month of June, pretty much. And obviously this year is gonna be a bit different because we're not doing the World Champs a bit later, which is, I think that's a lot better for everyone. Isn't
I think everyone's a bit hit and miss about this year, because regardless of the World Champs are in October this year and the Nationals are end of August for the first time, all the Diamond Leagues are still the same time.
Yeah.
Everything's still at the same, really. So
you're gonna have to peak.
So your people are basically going to have to do the Newcastle Street Games as a preparations for the World Champs at this rate. Because I don't think much is going to change. That's the problem.
Hey, it's a different type of competition, but it could be useful.
Thinking, I'll do 150 before I go do the 100 at the World Champs. Why not? A bit of speed endurance in the legs. But they might have they might not have any choice because of how everything's set up. And I think literally the last set races of the season is the World Champs. So I think this year is going to be very different to other years. I think people are going to try and approach it the same as possible, but I wonder if they're going to have to change things differently due to when the World Champs are.
That must be difficult going forward though, because if those champs are so late, generally when they are is when you guys are taking your off season. So going forward, it's like, okay, well, if I'm competing here, but then I normally start training at this point for the following year, how do you then work that out? Because it's like, do you just say, all right, cool, I'm going to take a week off and I'm just going to live in a massage room and then start training again? Or you're going to have to take an extended time off, but then give yourself a short amount of time to prepare yourself for outdoors?
I think as well, that's a good question, because obviously the Olympics are quite early next year. So I think they're like July, which is earlier than usual.
Yeah.
So realistically, from the World Champs to the Olympics, you've only got about 9 months. So you've not got really full 12-month preparation. So obviously, if I qualify for Worlds, I would probably have, depending on when it finished, I think it finished like early October, something like that. So I'll probably have the rest of October off and then start November. Yeah. So like a lot of Americans start November. And then I'd obviously probably still approach the indoors as normal, try and go for indoors. And then just train smartly then and think, well, the work is done from this year. And the work is, and then it's just how you train. So as you get older, you'd be surprised how much years of work you've done in the legs. So you don't necessarily have to feel like I've got to get another month of 300s in the legs. I think, well, I've kind of done a lot of 300s. Yeah. If anything, racing itself actually gets you stronger. So if I say, do you know what? Okay, so trials will probably be around early June, mid-June. So I'm probably going to do for all of April, I'll race, but just do 200s. So you're still racing with a bit of endurance in the legs. So you're still keeping snappy, you're still keeping fresh, but at the same time, you're racing still. So you're still in that feeling, and then you can start doing the 100-meter races if you're really prepping for that. And then you actually start thinking, do you know what, I could keep going here. Because you almost want to use this year for such a long year to use for next year. And it could work perfectly, actually, if you get this year right. That's what I think anyway.
So even though you've got such a long season, you're still planning to do the indoor season next year. So that's a plan. Have you ever missed an indoor season? You have.
2015.
2014 and 15, I missed most of them because of 2 injuries.
Okay.
Yeah. The way I see it is that some people don't like doing indoors for the sake of it, but I think, well, the Olympics and World Champs are hard, and it's not easy to medal because you don't know who's going to come out of nowhere. But indoors is an opportunity. It's still like a season. So take it on board, I say, because, when I hear athletes are missing the indoor season to get ready for the summer, I think, well, you might as well either do the indoors properly or don't do them. Don't just do 1 or 2 races
and then go back into your training program.
You're going back to a couple of weeks of. So you obviously go from January, you're doing all your speed work and endurance work, and then you think, you know what, we're gonna have a little break from the endurance side. We'll do a bit of speed. Yeah. And then you think, well, you've had 2 races now. Why don't you just do another 2 more? Yeah. If you're running fast, do it. Go and race more. Because you'd be surprised how much time you have. It takes a good month or 6 weeks to get it all back. Yeah. So when I hear people just having a short indoors, I'm like, well, just do a long one. What's the point? Yeah. Just do a long one or don't do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously indoors is quite short. Outdoors is much longer season. But on a personal preference, which do you prefer? Do you prefer the indoors or do you prefer outdoors?
It's a good question, that.
And with that question, you got to put into consideration your personal successes as well. So from a junior to a senior, titles and everything comes into play with this.
I do like the outdoors, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, I do think when I'm at my best, probably will be the 60 meters. Okay. To be honest. If you look at my senior record, it's mainly my successes come from the indoors. Because I've made 3 individual 60 meter for GB in the row. And I haven't ran for senior GB for outdoors for a good couple of years now. Okay. I'm not consistent enough around the 10-1s, 10-0s enough like these other guys are. And they get themselves in position for selection. Mine's a one-off. But for 60s, I know when I get it right, I can run 6.5, 6.6s week in, week out. So for me to do that is like them guys running 9 seconds and 10-0s week in, week out. Yeah. So it's just how my body works because I'm smaller framed, a bit shorter limbs than all these guys, but I'm so compact and powerful. So my first 40 meters when I get it right is world class.
Yeah.
And it can probably put me into a 6'5", hopefully 6'4" position. That could change my life forever. And for me to say I'm a 60-meter runner, it's good to be saying you're good at something than nothing.
Okay.
As always, I'll always enjoy. I'll always approach the summer as always. I still believe I could run sub 10 this year and challenge Christian Coleman, Ronnie Baker. As all athletes motivate themselves to do.
Yeah.
But I think to myself, you know what? If there's a chance where I know I can really medal, if there's a chance I either go to World Indoors and think I could actually close with Gappy and Christian Coleman and run 6'4" medal, then think, you know what? I might only just scrape the relay for the Olympics and not even run.
Yeah.
You know, and when you think to yourself what's best for you, it's like I could probably more likely run well in the World Indoors than the Olympics. As if things could change, I could end up having an average indoors like I've had, but all of a sudden run 9 seconds every race and think things could change.
Nothing's set in stone. Have you ever been to senior major champs? You've been selected for relay, but you've not run.
I got selected in 2013 for the first time. Yeah. It was in Moscow. I didn't run then at all.
Okay.
And then 2014, I got selected for the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
It was basically based on what the times you did 2013. They picked up because it was so early on the selection.
Yeah.
So I was only in the relay then, but I got to run the heat, and obviously got a silver medal from that. So I've not, but since 2015 really was the last time I ran for GB properly because obviously I did the GB World Cup last year, but I won't really class that as a proper GB really because it was kind of more, well, in a way yes and no.
Did you wear the kit?
I wore the kit, yeah.
It's a GB, it's a GB comp.
Fair enough. It was just the way, because it felt very a bit mediocre, the World Cup. So I think that's kind of why when I thought it was GB, thinking doesn't feel quite like it, you know. Feels like I'm just doing my part here, not really feel like I'm running in the major championships. It felt like a bit like a massive Diamond League. Yeah. A bit. Okay. You know, it was very like that. So even though it was a great experience running in the Olympic Stadium and all them, but yeah, if it's just for me, it just felt like too much like mediocre.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it just felt because it wasn't a full crowd.
Yeah.
And it was very points and everything. It wasn't really based on that. It was a points thing. So I was thinking like, doesn't feel like a proper championship.
Do we need more of that in the sport? More competition like that to help push the sport, give more opportunities to athletes, whether they're young
I think we could do
actually.
Senior. Yeah, because I think we got some new. Like, obviously, I was part of the relay, but we got some new faces. We had Ruben Arthur, Sam Gordon, and Confidence Lawson. Yeah, who've not really had that chances before. Yeah. So for them to get their chance to run for GB, because you know they might never get it again. Yeah. Or I might never get it again. You know, you just don't know what's going to happen. So I think when the opportunity comes, like things like that, always take them. But yeah, at the same time, I thought, you know, with that competition itself, because it was a very complete different feeling to other senior comps I did, you know, the setup didn't feel like a major championships. So that's probably why when I thought it didn't feel quite like a GB to like I have done in the past. Because when I went World Champs, you've seen Usain Bolt and you've seen all the Jamaicans, you think, yeah, this is a proper championship. Yeah. But then when you go into the anniversary games and you're just seeing like guys who are just filling in spots, you know, like at one point I got asked to do the 4x4 because Cameron, one of the athletes, that was about to pull out. You know, so that's kind of why I didn't feel
4x4.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
It's a jump as
okay.
well.
Yeah. That's kind of why I didn't feel so serious, because I'm thinking, like, I'm sat there watching, and I got Steve McGuire come up to going, oh, have you got your GB kit with you? I'm like, no, it's in my hotel room. So just Cameron might have to pull out, we might need someone to run. I'm like, well, tough mate, I ain't got my stuff. So.
It's kind of like an open meeting, isn't it?
That's what I mean. That's what I meant.
I can run in this, but if not, I can't run.
That's what I mean. That's kind of what I was meant earlier before, because it was things like that when you think to yourself, like, you know, you'd have a full squad, fully prepared, and we weren't prepared for that meet because it was the first thing ever
Fair
before.
Enough.
So,
all right, top 3 things in athletics for you that stand out and that you always hold close to your chest.
Top 3. Well, my favourite one today is winning the national indoors in 2017.
Okay.
Because I worked hard for that, and to this day, it's not easy to win a senior title. So that was still one of my proudest moments. I think running in the Commonwealth Games in 2014 was one of them. And the third one is a bit of an interesting one. Basically, in 2014, after the Commonwealth Games, I ran in Bedford, and I ran 10.10 in the semi-final of the inter-counties. But in the final, I nearly ran sub 10, but I pulled my hamstring 10 meters before the line. And that would have changed my career forever.
That must be tough.
And it's tough because ever since then, it was like, that's when I knew I could do it. Because I had a good first round, and then the semi-finals, I was actually in OJ was in the same race. And I ran 10:10, and I didn't run that well. And I just thought, I'm sinking, I didn't lift my hips, so I thought I could run faster in this final.
Yeah.
And in the second semi-final, DJ Tobias and Sean Safarantui both ran 10:0 as well. Now that race was wind assisted, and mine was legal. So I thought, right, we've got a bit of a race in this final. And we actually, what got frustrating was that final, they rushed the time, so we had another half an hour till we raced. We said, right, guys, you're getting called up in 5 minutes. Because they wanted to get on with the event, thinking, hold on, we've still got half an hour yet.
Yeah.
So DJ Tobias fall starts, and we get the starter saying, I'm very disappointed in you all for affecting this race and so on.
Seriously?
Yeah, she said it was our fault. She's like, very disappointed in you lot. I'm like, for what? We didn't do anything. It wasn't my fault you false started.
Fair enough.
She said something like, I was really looking forward to this race. And I'm like, we're about to race now. you know.
Well, she's a fan.
Yeah.
We'll put it down to that.
So anyway, so obviously I run up, so I obviously get out in the race. I don't remember the race so well because it was such a blur. In the last 10 meters, I just felt my left hammy just ping a bit, and I just couldn't. I was like, no, I'll make it a lot worse here. And the time came up with 10:04, 10:07, something like that.
Yeah.
And I thought I was so far ahead, and that could have just been it. One of the first white men ever to run, British white men to run sub 10.
That would have been a great achievement. Because has it been done yet?
No, not officially. No. Kilty's ran 10:01.
Yeah.
But that was
quite a good few years ago now. Yeah.
Okay.
But he's ran a wind assisted 9:9.
Yeah.
But nothing's legal yet, so it's still on the cards.
So it's still on the cards.
Still on the cards for now. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I'm not pressuring myself, yeah.
All right. Another question for you before we go. People you look forward to racing the most?
There's never really one specific. I think it's not as much as the athlete, it's more the environment. So when it's more like the national, when it comes to championships, then it's like, there's never really an athlete for me that stands out because I think all athletes are good, especially at this level, they're all good.
Okay.
I think the one athlete I would always say was Usain Bolt.
Yeah.
Obviously, because when I first raced him properly in 2015, you know, not very often you get to say I'm racing the best athlete we have ever had.
Yeah.
You know, and for me to actually be a couple lanes away and be in the mix at 40 meters at the start was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then had obviously seen him carry on running a really good time.
Yeah.
And it's I don't want to say intimidating because we athletes try not to be like that, but at the same time to say, you know, you're racing probably one of the greatest athletes we've ever had, and we might never get again. Yeah. You know, because those world records were special. Yeah. You know, it's you take it in, and then you have that confidence thinking that's the level I'm at. You know, as a mindset thing. Yeah. So for me to say the best one for me to race was Usain Bolt, I can't say any better than that. Actually.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. All right. So, what can we expect from you this season?
So, obviously, I'm approaching the World Championships as everyone else. Yeah. I want to win the trials. My aim, obviously, is to, as always, try and aim for runs up 10, try and get my 200 meters down. Yeah. Get myself in an environment to be more an elite environment, so I'm pushed constantly by good athletes or even better athletes. So I'm teaching myself to be chasing, not always being chased. And just keep doing what I'm doing. You know, I felt like physically and mentally I was in the best place ever. And I think if I could just continue what I'm doing and make sure I don't get injured, I don't do anything silly, I don't do anything over the top, I'm in for a good 2019. It's going to be a big ask for some of these performances because I'm up against some good guys.
Yeah, it's going to be a long year as well.
It's, you know, I feel like I'm in a good place and I think it's game on. You know, anything can happen in championships, and I'm very confident going forward. So it's quite exciting, actually. You know, 2019. You know, as always, there's a long season ahead. You know, I've got pretty much the rest of the year left now to get myself ready now. So I've got, you know, February, March, April, May. You know, so many months left to get ready. So yeah, it's going to be good.
Well, Here's another question. What did you think about the final European picks?
Oh, for selection.
Selection. That was good.
It is an interesting one. I mean, a lot of the selections, they're based from what they did last summer, so they can use that as selection. Yeah. I thought the men's 60 metres was interesting. At the same time, I don't think they had much choice because of You know, the only real chance they had was OJ because he did do the 100-meter standard. Now everyone's argued against that because he obviously came 8th in the final, and a lot of people have ran faster than him. But realistically, the truth is, if you haven't done the standard, you don't go, and it's quite harsh. And when it came to the Richard Kilty argument, I can totally see where he's coming from, you know, and he probably feels like he should be given his chance. It's just unfortunate he got injured, because if he didn't have injured and have full inter, he probably would have done the standard, and you know, so I can.
He's been there as well.
He's won it twice, you know, and I was in the final with him when he won it, and I just got DQ'd sadly, and that's not, and I don't know if I was ever going to win that, you know, but it is what it is. And for someone like Kilty to not, it's a different one. I think a lot of it, because this could be his 3rd chance to win, he probably feels like he has more of a reason to defend his title.
Yeah.
But if you look at the last 2 years, he's only ran a few 6.6s. He's not pushed on to 6.5s the last couple of years because of injuries.
Yeah.
And you can't really keep picking people on just because of what they've accomplished in the past. And because he's been picked for the hurdles and people have questioned it, but he's done the standard from the summer, so he is eligible to go. Yeah. So the only thing I would have said he should have done is the trials itself if he was to go. And he did announce he wasn't going to do indoors. So realistically, to announce saying he's not going to do it, but then get picked is a bit like, you know, should have done the trials, to be fair, because other countries, you know, they don't have that rule. Yeah. Standards. This is the standard. First 3, do what you have to do, because the Americans are tough. They set the standard of whatever it is. It could be 10 or something. 3, do it, you know, and, you know, Christian Coleman could come 4th.
Yeah.
Don't do the 100 meters. Doesn't matter who he is.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, unless he's defending champion.
Yeah.
Which is not.
Get a wild card.
No choice. Yeah. So Gatlin, obviously, he's defending champion. He gets a wild card. He gets to go. Same with Romel Guliev. He's defending 200 meter champion. He gets to go.
Do you think Gatlin would be 38?
I think he's about 36, 37 actually.
Yeah. I'm sure. Yeah. So by then he'll be pushing into his late 30s. Well, he's ready in his late 30s. Do you think he will?
I don't know.
Go out, or do you think he will just sit back and say, you know, I've had my time. I've done what I need to do since I've come back.
I think he'll keep going till next year's Olympics.
Okay.
Because I think the Olympics are so close now. He's going to probably give it one more year. If it doesn't quite go to plan for him at the Olympics, he might think, do you know what, enough's enough.
So Kim Collins part 2.
It might be a Kim Collins part 2, you know, and but you know, he's finding a way to manage his body at a late age. Dwayne Chambers, as he's 40 years old and he's running 6.6s still. It's learning how to manage your body, and I think it can be done. It's how, you know, Gatlin knows his body better than anyone. He's probably thinking, you know what, I could use this season to perfect for me. You know, I don't have to race every race. I can manage my body well. The World Championship's not till October. I'll be ready. You know, I won't be surprised if he makes the final again and pushes on to medal. I think it might be a big ask because Coleman's flying. You've got Noah Lyles who's going to be in the mix, and Ronnie Baker, and you've got other athletes as well. Some athletes could come out of nowhere as well. You know what championships are like.
I can almost guarantee
that a new name is going to jump
someone's going to hit, and out of nowhere we're just going to hear about 3 or 4 names across all of track and field. There's going to be a random athlete that no one's ever heard of to come out and do something crazy.
And it's going to be and
so we've got to watch this person.
Exactly,
as well.
And you never know. You might even see the likes of, like, you know, Trayvon Bromell, Andre DeGrasse come back.
Yeah,
you never know. I haven't heard from him for
a while. They've had a bit of a quiet.
I think quite a few years. I think he got injured last year at DeGrasse, but
DeGrasse is back, isn't it? He's been back in training for quite a while now.
So he might come good again, and then we might see because there were talks after the 2017 World Champs, DeGrasse and Coleman could be a good rivalry for the sport once Bolt retired, and obviously we haven't heard much from DeGrasse since, to be honest.
For me, I'm looking at it and I'm like, Coleman, DeGrasse, Bromell, if he gets back, those 3 right there, from a world aspect,
interesting.
I'm like, this could be fire. Like, for me, if anyone's going to challenge the records that have been set, it's definitely one of those 3 at this point in time. I think, obviously, Coleman's had the last couple of years where he's been flying, so it's like, okay, he could do it. But these two other guys, Bromell and DeGrasse, if they get it right, it's ball game. It's anyone's game.
It'd be great to see if they do, because at the same time, you know, they're very, you know, it was like we were saying about too much too soon as a youngsters. I just hope they've not done that to them, because they are talented, you know, and I hope the same with Coleman, because he's still a young lad as well. Yeah. You know, if you just let these guys develop, they could be, you know, superstars. It's hard to say they ever break the world records. We don't know, because we can never say. Yeah. But, you know, I won't be surprised. I think Coleman is the best one out of them that's close to getting the 100-meter world record, because he was injured for most of 2018 and he still ran 9.79.
I know, and that wasn't towards the end of the season.
That's the last race of the season. You know, he runs a 9.9 scraping it through in Birmingham, and then
Yeah.
5 days later, 9-7 gone, and it was like, wow, that was a bit of a message that he sent, thinking, yep,
Yeah,
I'm world
next
indoor
year.
champion and I'm around. So yeah, it's going to be interesting season. And as a mindset for myself, I'm hoping to be as well in that mix. Confident I can be. I think my legs turn over as fast as theirs, so why not use it properly? So
Of course they
and
will.
a lot of it's just the mindset. It's like we say, comfort zone. That's the one philosophy that I've started using now, is comfort zone. Get yourself out of your comfort zone, and even to youngsters as well. Get yourself out of your comfort zones. You know, get yourself in environments where you're not used to. You know, so train with boys a bit older than you. Sometimes get yourself in environments where you think, oh, I'm not used to this. I like being where I'm the top dog in my place. So no, be the small fish in a big pond from now on. See what that feels, and you'll learn how to bounce back from that. Makes you a much better athlete.
Well, you heard it here first, guys. That's Andy Robertson with Athletics Productionz. Andy, could you please plug your socials for us so we can get people to follow you?
Totally,
We're going to
man.
need to start this campaign of getting you some sponsors, because I don't understand how a man who has run 10-1
This long as well.
and been doing the sport for this long does not have any sponsors. So please give us your socials.
Yeah, totally, man, definitely. And that's it. Thanks for everything. You want to follow me? It's AndySub10 on Instagram. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's ARobertson100. And that's pretty much what I use for social media for now. But yeah, give us a follow, and if there's anything you want to help me out there, please do, because if you guys support me out there, I'll be able to perform much better.
See, it's all about support, guys. I am DJ Armani. Please follow me on Instagram, DJ Armani1. Victor?
Victor Panda Addict _underscore addict.
Cool. That's us signing out, guys. Thank you for listening to another podcast. We'll be back soon as possible.
Thank you,
Out.
guys.
Oh.
Yeah.
Never mind, death professor.